All right, Dan, Buffalo Bills have a big one this Sunday night right here on 104.5 The Team. And yeah, you're going to hear their sideline reporter, their Buffalo Bills beat and sideline reporter from WGR Sports Radio 550 out in Buffalo. He's a friend of the drive, and he joins us each and every week, and that is our friend Sal Capaccio. Sal, how are you, sir?
Pretty good, guys. Hope you're enjoying this November 1st. The calendar has turned.
Yeah, the calendar has turned. Did you go anywhere? Did you go trick-or-treating?
Yes, of course. Right? I have a 9-year-old. He's
right.
turning 10. You got to do that. I mean, our neighborhood is great, too, by the way. I live right in the city of Buffalo, and my neighborhood in the city, not, in the suburbs. We got these, a little more, neighborhoods and the cul-de-sacs. No, we're right in the city there, and the people are great in my area where they have their houses all decked out. The adults are out there, giving away stuff. You got scary music. It was phenomenal. I loved it.
What's the preferred candy in the Capaccio household?
Nice.
Ooh, if you ask my son, he kind of likes everything. He's he's not as much into the chocolates as he is into the, I don't know, like the gummies.
All right.
Or
fair enough.
Things like that. I'm a chocolate with almonds guy. So anything chocolate with almonds is good for me. I'm a big chocolate guy. So I'll do the Kit Kats. Those little ones, Twix, are real good. So things like that are good for me.
Okay. See, that's the real pressing information we needed to know today. So I appreciate that.
And what was Max? What was Max for Halloween? That's the other thing we need to know.
So he was Mandalorian, including with a Baby Yoda, Grogu, that came along that he would carry around with him.
Nice.
Great Mandalorian, yeah. So that was a cool costume.
That is absolutely outstanding. All right, let's get to the Buffalo Bills, Sal. Last Thursday, they got out of it. It was a good performance. It looked like they had the game pretty much in hand the whole way. What was your take on the win over the Buccaneers?
Well, yeah, but it got really scary at the end of the game, and the Bills let them back in through different reasons. I mean, people are talking about Sean McDermott electing not to go for it and punting. I agree. I would have liked to see the Bills go for it in that last one. You have Josh Allen just sneak it, but at the same time, the previous couple of punts I was in agreement with. I mean, the Buccaneers hadn't driven the ball on the Bills all day, and the Bills were in control of this game. Really, if Jordan Phillips doesn't grab the face mask of Baker Mayfield, the Bills win by 14 at least, I think, right? I think the Bills, because of that, you look at how that game kind of swung a little bit at the end there, but I do think the Bills were in total control of that game throughout most of it. They made a couple mistakes. Josh had the ball that got batted up, interception. There was a bad 54 seconds there with a field goal, the interception, the touchdown. Other than that, I thought the Bills controlled it. I love the way they did two different things, one on each side of the ball. They did what we've been asking for, guys. They spread it out. They got everybody involved, sideline to sideline, up-tempo, let Josh run a little bit. I thought that was just a very big key to the game. I did the numbers the second time in team history, Buffalo Bills history, they had 4 guys with at least 5 catches and 65 yards. Pretty crazy, right?
Cool, yeah.
The only other time was back in 2011 in that big comeback against the Patriots in week number 3. That was it. That's how much they spread the ball around, and those guys contributed. I love that. And then on the defensive side, how about Jordan Poyer really playing more of a linebacker role in passing situations? They moved him down from safety to linebacker, went dime, brought Taylor Rapp in. I thought it was a great adjustment, and maybe that's kind of the role Jordan Poyer needs going forward in those situations, but I thought it really helped them, and that was a really, really nice wrinkle by Sean McDermott.
It really was. And, the two things that you bring up are important ones to note because it seems, Sal, like those are things that could really impact this group in the future as well and kind of change the tides after you've alternated wins and losses over your last 4. Did it seem as though there were things in that Tampa game that could really be built upon for the longer term as the Bills look to get back on track? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, they needed a game like that offensively. And I've been saying leading up to the trade deadline, which we can obviously talk about, they just traded for Rasul Douglas. But I've been saying leading up to the trade deadline, people want to talk about how much more offense they need, a receiver. Look, that's great. You can bring in guys, but I think the answers on offense are more internal. I think they can do those things. They have Josh Allen. The answers are right on their roster and in their building. I think the answers on defense had to come from the outside to help out because you can't lose Daquan Jones, Matt Milano, Tre'Davious White, and replace them simply with backups. That only goes so far, which is why they went out and got Rasul Douglas. But I do, Dan. I think that those are things you can build on, and I think this defense saw that they can still play a different number of ways and match up by doing that with Jordan Poyer in this offense because you have the talent there. Once you know that you can kind of use those guys, it's all about personnel usage, and I think they can build on all of that.
We're hanging out with our guy, Sal Capaccio. He's the Buffalo Bills beat and sideline reporter, WGR Sports Radio 550 in Buffalo. He's also the host of the Extra Point Show out there every day, 10 a.m. until 12 noon. Follow him on Twitter at Sal Sports and each and every week here on The Drive. Hey, Sal, when I look at the trade there and they got Douglas, I thought maybe they would go out and get some linebacker help. Were you surprised they didn't get more help from the trade, or did you think that was about as much as they could do given the cap situation?
Well, look, this is tough. I mean, I can't sit here and tell you I know for sure that they didn't look at getting a linebacker. I thought that might be an area they'd target as well. But, guys, it's hard to make a deal. I mean, here's evidence. Only two teams in the entire AFC acquired a player, the Bills and the Jaguars. That's it. Nobody else acquired anybody. And
right.
It's hard to make a deal because you do have cap constraints. You do have draft picks you don't want to part with. It's tough. Teams don't want to part with guys even if you want them. Got to be the right price. All that's got to fit. So I'm not surprised they didn't make a deal. You can never be surprised for that. I'm also not surprised they brought in a corner. Now, I do think maybe linebacker's an area they probably looked at, but at the end of the day, they really like Dorian Williams long term. They have Matt Milano still at some point, maybe at the end of this year, who knows, but he'll still be on the team going forward. Those are things they have to consider. Corner was an area I think they really had to address. Doesn't surprise me at all. Look, Kyrie Elam just has not been able to fit in. And we learned today he might go on injured reserve now for 4 weeks at least while he deals with an ankle injury. But the Bills are, they're going with Christian Benford, Dane Jackson. After that, there's a pretty big drop-off. I think Rasul Douglas really kind of stabilizes that group. He comes in, he's long. Guy has 10 interceptions over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
That's third most in the NFL. And Bills corners combined over the last 3 years, all of them only have 12 interceptions. So, he's a ball hawk. He's instinctive. That's what Bill said about him today. So I wasn't surprised they didn't make other moves. I can't tell you for sure they weren't in on things. I'm sure that they investigated everything.
And I'm sure you're absolutely right on that one. They tend to do their due diligence there. But Sal, it's burned in both of our brains when we got back onto this show with you at the beginning of January after the game last season in Cincinnati, and speaking with you about your experience on the sideline during everything that happened with Damar Hamlin. So coming up this weekend, what does this game mean both to the Bills and to Bills fans and really everybody involved in that fateful night? Now seeing that the Bills are heading back out to Cincinnati 1 year later.
Listen, guys, I think what's going to happen here is it sounds weird to say, and I know that. I don't mean it to sound the way it's going to sound. The Damar Hamlin piece of this game and story, I think, is going to be more national than it is local here in Buffalo.
Okay.
See, we have been with Damar every step of the way here, if you will, right, locally. I mean, it came from he's back at team workouts. He's now, back at OTAs, and now he's wearing pads, and now he's in preseason, and now he's in a regular season game, and he's hit all these benchmarks and milestones, and that's something. And, of course, this is a really big deal. We all know that. It's a big story. But I think nationally this is resonating because a lot of just, casual football fans who don't follow all of this stuff, the nitty-gritty every day, are going to say, oh, my God, Bills, Bengals, they're going to take themselves back to that night, like you just said. And, oh, my God, Damar Hamlin, he's on the team. He's back with a stadium where, quite literally, he died on the field.
Right.
So I think that's going to happen, and it's going to be a talking point. Now, look, the Bills are going to be asked about it all week. Damar's going to be asked about it. As of now, I don't think he's scheduled to speak. I don't know if that's going to happen. He's kind of been avoiding that kind of stuff recently because it's been about football, which I totally respect. He also, by the way, was ill today, so he wasn't at practice. Hopefully nothing, too serious with that. Sean McDermott has been asked about how his team's going to handle it. And he has said, and I think he struck the right tone here, which is, yes, that's something we all have to think about. It's something we're going to deal with. We'll talk with our players about. There'll be available resources. But at the end of the day, they got to go there and win a football game, and that's what this has to be about for this football team. So I think locally here at Buffalo Bills, this is about winning a football game, but understanding the gravity of where they are and what happened, whereas nationally, this is going to be more of the predominant story heading into the game.
Yeah, and I think from a football team perspective, you have to think that way of, hey, we have to recognize it, but at the same time, we have to move on. We have a job to do while we're out there, and thank God we're looking at it in the way of all the positive things that happened after that. All right, before we get to that game, we talked about prior with you, some news out of Bills training camp concerning Josh Allen and that questionable shoulder again. Sal, what's up with Josh Allen and how bad is that shoulder?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know about questionable would be in a term that he might, be designated for an injury, but he does have a shoulder injury. He's dealing with that, but he aggravated it Thursday night. You guys saw him on TV go into the medical tent. He came out. He never missed a rep, but Kyle Allen was warming up. The Bills were ready for Kyle Allen to play in that game. Josh finished the game. In fact, he came out. He ran the ball for a touchdown. He threw the ball fine. He said after the game he'll be sore. They did have 10 days here. Before practice, Sean McDermott told us Josh would be limited with the shoulder injury.
Okay.
We go out to practice. He's not there. We don't see him. So my assumption is, my guess is that I talked to you guys, and unfortunately, I'm kind of in between hearing from Josh, or at the end of practice, we only get to watch a certain amount here. My guess is he'll come out and he will have some sort of reps. Now, maybe he doesn't. Maybe we learn that he didn't practice at all. I still wouldn't throw up a really big caution flag, all right? I mean, it might be, hey, they had 10 days. It's their first day back. They want to give him a little more time to make sure that he's good to go for Thursday, Friday, and then Sunday. He's Josh Allen. That doesn't seem like it's anything that's going to hold him back from the game. Sean McDermott did say he did not have any setbacks on the shoulder. So I'm not worried about it, but I think it's notable that McDermott said he'd be limited, then we didn't see him at all during the media viewing portion.
That is notable, and it's good to see your perspective on it, but it's still something certainly to watch, and you got to have him as close to 100% as possible, or whatever he's capable of against this Bengals team as they sit now. It's another tale of Cincinnati kind of improving after a slow start. But how do you see this year's Bengals as an opponent for this year's Bills?
Boy, I mean, they look really good now. They're in their fullest of forms, it seems like, with Joe Burrow back healthy, and the way that they're playing football. What they did to San Francisco was very, very impressive. Now Burrow's running. It doesn't seem like his cap is bothering him whatsoever. Joe Mixon's running the ball well. They have one of the best defensive minds in all of football, Lou Amarillo, as their defensive coordinator. This is going to be a tough task for the Bills. They're not catching the Bengals at the right time, that's for sure. That said, I think the Bills did some nice things, like you said, Dan, they could build off of last week. And I think that, the Bills are still going to be a tough team to stop no matter who they're facing, because they have Josh Allen and weapons, and Sean McDermott's going to have a plan, for that offense to try and come up with. It's, some wrinkles there. I do think the Bengals, when I watch them, obviously they have great receivers to deal with. Sometimes I think, it's not that Miami brings, but man, when DeBurrow's dialed in like that, he's like 80% throwing the football. That is really, really tough. And then it's a tough environment. Sunday night in Cincinnati, a lot on the line for the Bengals after a slow start. Now they're 4-3, trying to get over the hump and take over another spot, in their division in the AFC. So it's a tough task for the Bills, no doubt about it.
Sal, before we let you go, what's the tone around the team right now? Still full confidence in how good this football team can be?
Oh, 100%. Look, it's a week-to-week league. We all know that. Definitely. Fans live and die kind of on the weekly wins and losses. We do that in the radio, right? I mean, I do my Extra Point show on Mondays, and whenever they win, they're going to the Super Bowl. Whenever they lose, fire everybody. I mean, that's the way it works, right?
That's fair.
But listen, but if you, especially under this regime, especially under Sean McDermott, I've been around long enough, they play the long game. They know that every week you're going to have ebbs and flows. You're going to have injuries. You're going to play really well. You're going to play really poorly. You never know. I mean, it happens to every team in this league. Look what San Francisco is going through right now.
Yep.
Look what Cincinnati went through earlier in the season. Look what Kansas City did last week. The biggest upset in the league, I think, this year, losing to Denver. I think that might have been. But, this is what happens in the NFL every year. So the tone is we're still very confident in our players. We know we're a very good team. You got to go to Cincinnati. You got to get in. What's the cliche? One game at a time, 1 week at a time. It really does ring true with the Buffalo Bills and Sean McDermott in this organization.
He's our guy, Sal Capaccio, Buffalo Bills beat and sideline reporter. You hear him each and every game here on 104.5 The Team, the home of the Buffalo Bills. And he is from WGR Sports Radio 550 out in Buffalo. He's the host of the Extra Point Show, 10 a.m. till 12 noon. Follow him on at Sal Sports. And each and every week, he's nice enough to join us here on The Drive. Sal, safe travels out to Cincinnati. We'll be watching for you out in the sidelines. It'll probably be a little cold out there.
Yeah, actually, guys, been looking at it. Cincinnati's going to be like 65 degrees throughout Sunday.
Oh, nice.
And then it's going to be like, high 40s, close to 50 degrees Sunday night. So
beautiful.
Maybe we'll have some really nice weather for some football on Sunday night in Cincinnati.
Oh, that's good football weather. No goggles whatsoever for you this week.
We survive another week.
Yeah, we survive another week.